Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome to Marketing Management, a VUCA perspective. We are discussing core concepts, and as this entire course draws to a closure, we are discussing the finer details of integrated marketing communications. And on this lovely, exhilarating journey, I have been your tour guide and friend, Siddhi Bhattacharyya. Now, in the words of Andrew Davis, content building relationships, relationships building trust, and trust driving revenue, we have been talking about how all of these factors come into play when we look at aspects of integrated marketing communications. And towards that end, we've looked at how it has to be inclusive, and yet the elements have to be chosen extremely meticulously so that they deliver exactly where the impact is to be found with the consumer, and the choice of media and the messaging mix together create that necessary amount of impact when it comes to the lives of people. And hence, we are in the third part of this IMC undertaking, very close aspect considerations of how it works. So, in module number 39, what we are going to talk about is the experience of it. So, events, experiences, what people say therefore in the form of word of mouth, and how it finally ends up creating impactful marketing moments. Now, this is really the truth, the consumer truth, the proof of the pudding, and therefore here in-depth explorations occur where events, experiences and word of mouth, all of these shape modern marketing strategies. This examination tells us how brands create meaningful connections and personally relevant moments in consumers' lives. And these are extremely important because that is where brands are remembered by people, what they mean to them and what their space in their life is. You leverage sponsorships, you create experiences, you put out publicity and more to build such lasting relationships with the consumer. Here we'll discover effective approaches to experiential marketing, learn how successful brands generate powerful word of mouth momentum, and understand the strategic roles of publicity, public relations, and even packaging when it comes to creating a cohesive marketing presence. Let's first try and understand why events matter in modern marketing. It helps you immediately, instantaneously connect with the target markets. It helps provide unique opportunities to engage with specific demographic groups in the context where they are naturally receptive to the brand messages. When people are most receptive to receiving brand messages, you get increased memory of those experiences and therefore of the brand itself. So, you increase the brand salience, and sustained exposure through these events creates the repetition necessary for building top of mind awareness. Now, you've remembered how we've talked about reach, how we have talked about frequency, and how we've talked about impact in previous conversations. Reach is something which you already probably generated through a variety of implementations in cumulative media. But frequency builders and frequency activators are typically in the experiential space where you truly generate the necessary impact required for people to convert to the brand's messaging. You create deep emotional connections, and always remember that over time we tend to forget the nuances of a conversation. What is left behind is the residual emotional memory of the interaction, and that is what people retain, and the generated feelings and experiences that we carry forward in our lives, those are what consumers associate with the brands that have sponsored the event, the emotional bonds that have been formed at the moment, and the traditional advertising's lack, which is filled in by experiential, is something you will not be able to get elsewhere. So all of these aspects need to be understood and implemented by marketers. Now, when you talk about the strategic benefits of event sponsorship, you first and foremost at the basal level get promotional opportunities because you're creating merchandising and sales touch points at the event. So there is transaction-led interaction at this point, but beyond that, because it leaves behind certain emotional connections with consumers, you have the opportunity to build relationships where you connect with customers and you reward your employees for their best performances. Furthermore, you can enhance your brand image with the associations developed at the ground level in an experiential setting, and you reinforce key brand associations at this moment. In terms of differentiation, you can create unique competitive positioning here, and so that you can actually establish and hammer in what you stand for as a brand vis-a-vis the competition, and leave that generic feel-good factor, that aftertaste in people's lives and minds. Now, let's look at brand identity, how it has been created through events and various success stories towards that end. The Old Spice Classic is something which has sponsored college sports because Old Spice effectively targets the 16 to 24-year-old males. Catching them early helps the brand keep them on board for longer and therefore increasing the lifetime value of the consumer. Here in these events, they create opportunities for product sampling and reinforce the brand relevance amongst the core demographic so that they get on board and stay for longer with the brand. On the other hand, if you look at a car brand Toyota Tundra, it has to toughen its image and appeal to heartland America. Now, it's a Japanese brand trying to sell a muscle car to America. Here what Toyota did, it sponsored the BASS fishing tournaments. Now, fishing is a very masculine activity in the States, and there are country music tours which are also predominantly alpha male to look at. Here they are connecting with outdoor enthusiasts and positioning the truck as rugged and authentic. Even women drivers who use such large vehicles with sporty outlooks, they actually use it for the masculinity formulation of the product itself, and so the product can actually brave the outdoors. So that is the idea which is projected here through the engagement. When you look at extending that, you look at global brand visibility, and this is done through major sponsorships at scale. The World Cup sponsorships probably they are the biggest sponsorships in the sporting world other than the Olympics, and you can look at companies like Emirates, which actually sponsor football teams as well. You've got Hyundai, you've got Kia, you've got Sony. They're all leveraging the football fiestas month-long global exposure to significantly boost their top-of-mind awareness through repeated brand visibility. In Olympic partnerships, you will see long-standing Olympic sponsorship enhances international brand awareness and taps into the emotional Olympic spirit for competition, for friendly sportsmanship, and also national fervor. It creates patriotic goodwill that transcends mere advertising. When it comes to adrenaline junkie sports, you've got motorsports, which actually get the most out of car championships like BB&T's NASCAR Busch Series, where sponsorship creates valuable business entertainment opportunities, while their minor league baseball sponsorships generate employee engagement and excitement. So a lot of sponsorships are created for brand visibility, and because they are present in that particular space, the brand gets a lot of mileage and visibility out of the entire exercise. Now, events are not only for pure play marketing activities. Events can also be turned to doing social good. For example, corporate social responsibility events, which can actually create community commitments. Now, if you have a cause which you want as an organization to pursue, your organizational brand can actually demonstrate your genuine investment in local communities, your ability to understand social issues and work with a certain objective to achieve these. Here, the social issue advocacy helps platforms to champion important causes which the organization feels for. Non-profit partnerships also help because these collaborations extend the reach of the brand and also create societal good while they are doing this particular deed. And finally, it aligns itself with the brand positioning very importantly because it differentiates itself through purpose-driven initiatives. Again, the magic word purpose has popped up here because it is intrinsic to the brand's identity and values. So, from the brand's essence, you really see what the brand truly aligns with and feels for, and hence you bring that story here and you own that through the CSR activity. Now, cause-related marketing has a lot of success stories in its fold. McDonald's has community programs where McDonald's has Black and Positively Golden, which is an initiative which celebrates Black culture while building community goodwill through dedicated events and sponsorships that connect the brand with cultural celebration. There is Timberland Environmental Commitment, where Timberland has made environmental causes a cornerstone of its marketing because it's an outdoorsy brand, it has adventure within it, and it also brings in conservatism towards nature as part of its belief system. It sponsors tree planting initiatives and sustainability events that reinforce its outdoor brand identity, and it also meanwhile demonstrates authentic commitment to nature conservation. Starbucks also towards social impact and leverages cause-related events focusing on community development, fair trade and sustainability to strengthen its position as a socially responsible brand, and it helps its customers feel good about supporting the brand and the cause that the brand has picked up. So, this gives the opportunity for consumers to also turn collaborator. It gives a very necessary activity to the consumer to partake in and gives them a reason to be there in part of the brand space. Necessarily, when you're creating cohorts and later forging tribes out of them, you will see that these activities can also turn into the brand myths and the brand rituals. These are important to understand because all of these activities, they showcase the belief system the brand carries forward and also gives the tribes people certain reasons to associate and have a certain badge value from getting into that particular kind of association. But no good deed goes unpunished, and hence there are challenges when it comes to event sponsorship as well. There are unpredictable outcomes. Events can actually produce unexpected results which could be potentially outside of sponsor control, and therefore it requires a very good event management capable agency to manage the affairs and ensure that the PR going out of an event is always positive for the brand. Yes, it also has high investment costs because a significant financial commitment with uncertain ROI is part of the game here. And if you try and over commercialize this, you will receive a consumer backlash because there is resentment of excessive branding at events. Now, how do you create effective experiential marketing? Now, within this space, you choose certain appropriate events. The selection is critical because the events that you align with and your brand values that you actually proposition here and the target audience which you appeal with gives you the ability to hit your marketing objectives. And therefore, you design an optimal sponsorship program which helps create activations that enhance the event experience and also highlights your brand benefits. It's a I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of an approach. You also measure the sponsorship effects. It's rather difficult to do because on ground the tracking of key metrics is difficult because there is a lot of a human flux on the ground level. So, in order to evaluate ROI, you will have to have very critically placed touch points and measurement metrics which will help you pick up what is the kind of return you're getting on your spends, and then you can use that data to refine future experiential marketing efforts. The bigger idea here is to iterate and optimize. You use these insights gleaned from whatever you've done on ground and continuously improve your experiential strategies for maximizing the impact you have generated. Now, how do you select the right events for your brand? In terms of audience match, because at the end of the day, you are a brand selling a product or service to a specific audience. If the right kind of audience is not present at your particular choice of event, then it means that you are shooting in the dark. Therefore, the event attendees must align with your target demographic profile for sure. Beyond this, the image of the event also should reinforce what you stand for as a brand, and they should project image alignment for you. The event associations should give the desired brand attributes while also attending to the audience match that you are trying to reach out to. In terms of potential, you need to look for opportunities for ancillary marketing activities because you are not going to just limit yourself to the event. There are peripheral activities which you need to create around the event so that you maximize the spend, because the audience is already there. The better you engage them, the more residual salience you will be able to create and also opportunities for transactions at the ground level. The last factor which you need to keep in mind is exclusivity. How many other people are there where they are going to also take away from the ability to catch consumer eyeballs. So, therefore, you need to avoid events with too many competing sponsors. The idea here is to stay exclusive, stay on top of the entire activity. So, when you get into all of these, you will want to immerse your brand through company experiences at the same point in time so that people can experience what it is to be the organization and the brand that you have so painstakingly set up. If you create these company experiences, people walk into these and find out who you are. About 3.5 million annual visitors can be expected, and you can actually push your brand loyalty up by about 67%, and you can also generate purchase intent in almost half of the people who walk in. So, Ben & Jerry's, Boeing, Crayola, Hershey's factory tours, these attract millions of engaged brand enthusiasts every year. Customers who participate in company experiences show significantly higher brand loyalty. When customers walk in and they demonstrate higher purchase intent, automatically what you get out of the experience is a purchase intent, and after the immersive brand experiences, even more so. Now, within these innovative brand experience centers, what you can create are a variety of things. You can have a corporate museum. Hallmark, Kohler, Bayersdorf, which is Nivea, showcase their brand heritage through corporate museums. It captures the heritage, the legacy, the moorings of the brand, where it started from, what was thought of, what was believed in, and sort of points towards the purpose of where the brand came forth from. And with that, you are able to align people better to what the brand really stands for and get them to buy in, creating in effect the cohort and the tribe in the longer run. In fact, once done properly, it will help you create the brand world. Brands which have been able to do this consistently are ones which have been at it for the longest period of time. You can see the world of Coca-Cola and M&M's world create immersive experiences. Same is the case with Disney. Now, Disney is one of the brands which has been able to create its own universe, a magical experiences for children and adults alike. And within factories also, you can see European car manufacturers offer factory pickup options with tours. So when you are there, you are in the element. If you've got somebody who has that kind of pocket change lying about, you can actually pick up a BMW. So this is the connect which can actually accentuate sales right there when you are in the moment, in the element and with the product. You can directly pick one and drive it home. So that is the kind of engagement that we are looking at. There is a case study here which we present where Mercedes-Benz had a European delivery program. Their premium customer experience was Mercedes-Benz offered customers the options to pick up their new vehicle directly from the factory in Germany, and it created a premium brand experience that deepened the customer relationship because people walked in, they saw the car getting made. It involved them in the process. They almost became people who were collaborators in the evolution of the brand as well. Further, it gave them value-added benefits because the program included up to 7% of waiver on the purchase price. This was waived because of destination charges, airfare vouchers, hotel accommodations, and exclusive factory and museum tours would actually get people right where they wanted in the element. Also, it would afford them the chance of a European road trip because customers who drove their new Mercedes through Europe before shipping it to their home country created lasting memories associated with the brand and gave a much needed UGC, which is user generated content boost to the brand. This was done free of cost. Consumers happy with their buy and with the experience would actually do this of their own volition. Now, the power of word of mouth therefore in marketing is something which is worth noting because personal recommendations, and we have talked about this ad nauseum, personal recommendations are the biggest swinging factor when it comes to any amount of interactions with various people who we interact with online or in person. Next come in online reviews. Both personal recommendations as well as online reviews come from real people, real consumers, and so therefore the weightage they carry are definitely higher than those which seem to be paid for by the brand. Then you've got the brand website which gives you information, and so therefore it captures some of these as well as gives specific logical explanations for why a particular product or service is to be bought. Editorial content next, which covers it mostly without biases and gives you a clear picture of what you are getting into when you buy that particular brand or product. Social media, which is definitely more advertising like, and least of all in this mix, television ads, which are seen to be completely salesy. Although at times the advertising creative may be very enriching, but at the end of the day, it is still an advertisement. So therefore, you feel that you are being sold a product rather than you yourself going out there and looking for, figuring out and finally buying a product. So with these things come brand success, and that is through word of mouth. Hush Puppies revived themselves. They transformed from a declining brand to a fashion staple through organic word of mouth, which created a trendsetter movement around them. This illustrated how authentic conversations can revitalize a heritage product because it had that kind of legacy behind it. Similarly, Krispy Kreme expanded nationally with minimal advertising, relying instant on the genuine excitement customers shared about the hot donuts now experience which Krispy Kreme proposed. Starbucks also expanded from a Seattle coffee shop to a global phenomenon largely through customer conversations about the third place experience they created, because there's home, there's work, and then there's Starbucks. So hence, this is the third place experience which people craved, coveted, and could not write enough of, and that helped push them into a space where they actually benefited from it. So viral marketing therefore is something which comes out of word of mouth marketing. Here you leverage digital word of mouth and try and create something which is share worthy, which people feel is necessary to put out forward. It has certain value, it has a surprise element, and maybe they feel other people in their personal circle may benefit from it. So, if you create shareable content, you develop content that provokes emotional responses, humor, awe, surprise, and you try and compel viewers to share this with others. When you do so, what happens is you optimize distribution channels. Your platforms where you target your audience naturally engages with the kind of content you have created, and therefore it makes the sharing as frictionless as possible. People coming to that platform are expecting to see content in that particular context or genre. People who are there find your content relevant. People who are there find that they can share it with other people and make themselves also feel important, almost akin to knowledge and thought leaders. So, therefore, they are more likely to share your work. In fact, if you've got influencers sharing your work, then you can identify and activate influential voices who can amplify your message to relevant communities, and that does the trick for you. When you foster conversation, that is exactly when you create opportunities for audience participation that extends the life and reach of your campaign. So, there is a case study here, blend text, will it blend? This was an innovative approach where Blendtec transformed from an unknown commercial blender company to a household name through low budget viral videos. This featured founder Tom Dixon in a lab coat blending unusual items. There was deadpan humor and outrageous demonstrations of the blender's power, created inherently shareable content that highlighted the product's key strength of blending in a very entertaining and shareable way. It had remarkable results because the Will It Blend campaign generated millions of YouTube views, and with the iPhone blending video alone, it attracted over 3.5 million views. The viral success led to mainstream media coverage on network television shows and created a cultural phenomenon that dramatically increased brand awareness and sales. Blendtec effectively balanced entertainment with safety messaging, clearly categorizing videos as "don't try this at home" while also creating practical "do try this at home" content. So, both of these things were very humorous in their own ways, because when there is a caveat which is given by a brand or by a content creator saying that don't try this at home, this is generally to conform with whatever broadcast laws are there. But the do try this at home was a very ingenious attempt at getting people to see something which they could do, and also to try the humorous element amount, because nobody really spoke of things that were suggested so that they could get it done in a way that benefited them. So, here if you see, SodaStream's word of mouth strategy really worked for them, because SodaStream built its brand with minimal advertising by creating conversation catalysts. Now, what kind of items are conversation catalysts, if you will ask? There are extensive product sampling, strategic product placement, and partnerships which work together with conversation catalysts. You create something which is unusual. The most important thing is it has to be unusual. The moment it is unusual, it piques a curiosity response from people. So, the curiosity therefore automatically projects why is something there which naturally should not be in that particular space. So, hence the product sampling automatically is the next step, because people are intrigued by it, they come close to that particular installation, and when they do, that particular installation reveals itself to hold the product also, and whatever partnerships you have done with environmental organizations and specific user groups like boat and RV owners who value the convenience, you have actually created the conversation starter. Their striking cage installations displaying a year's worth of plastic bottle waste in high traffic locations, for example airports and malls, serve as powerful visual conversation starters about sustainability. Again, sustainability here becomes part of the brand purpose and the brand essence. We have seen in Pureflow's case in the past as well, that sustainability has become a strong conversational point amongst its audiences so that they can have a differentiating factor. Similarly, here what SodaStream also did was they picked up sustainability and used installations. That was a digital usage. Here you see it in the form of an installation. There's another case study here where Dollar Shave Club did a viral launch. They created a launch video which became a viral sensation, getting over 23 million views and an acquisition value of $1 billion finally when they were bought off by Unilever. Their venture capital was over $20 million, and this was the funding raised on the strength of viral marketing success, which they managed to pull through and finally got sold off at $1 billion. Now, what makes content go viral? This is the holy grail for content creators today, and the first thing that needs to be understood is surprise and novelty. So, content that defies expectations or presents something new is the first thing that makes people sit up and take notice. So, why is it important to get people to sit up and take notice? Because they are expecting something which is the exact same old, drab, regular content. There is nothing exciting, there is nothing which shocks them out of their stupor or reverie. Here, if you put in humor and entertainment, content amuses or provides a break from whatever you are doing as routine work. Beyond this, there is emotional resonance also, because if it has created an emotional response, you will see content triggering strong emotional inputs, and that helps salience and retention in the consumer's mind. There is practical value in this because the content solving a problem or providing useful information becomes something which people find that much worthwhile to share forward. It has every single box ticked so far. It has surprise, it has humor, it resonates at an emotional level, and it has practical value. So, it is definitely worth sending outward. The moment somebody does so and their friends look at it, they find that the person sending it is intelligent, or at least they think so. So, that is precisely why they want to do this particular activity. It also expresses the kind of identity which the sender, the person making the video viral, they are going through. Here, content helps people express who they are and their shade of intelligence. So, if they agree with the points of the video, then they share it ahead, because that showcases what they think, how their mind works, and it becomes a ticket to showcase people outside how they've been thinking on things. Similarly, word of mouth, online versus offline, has various dynamics. When you look at online word of mouth, you have digital conversations which tend to favor novel, exciting and surprising brands that create content which is worthy of sharing. Online word of mouth extends reach beyond geographic limitations and creates permanent, searchable records of opinions. It favors unique, innovative brands and provides amplification at scale. It also creates persistent, searchable content, whereas offline word of mouth is about face-to-face conversations and center around salient, visible brands that come easily to mind in daily interactions, and these conversations tend to be more trusted but have limited reach compared to digital channels because it's only done in person. Here, benefits are established and the brands being visible carry it forward. You have higher trust and credibility and more immediate influence on decisions happening. When you try and understand the consumer sharing behaviors, you will see that personal experience makes it positive, and while others' experience makes it less so. When you are talking about neutrality, you will see that personal experience and others' experience are pretty much at par, but when it comes to negative, others' experience takes far more precedence over personal experience, because people don't want to project personal experience as it makes them look bad in front of others. Now, there is a role for publicity in marketing communications. It gives you free media space. Unlike advertising, publicity utilizes editorial space in media outlets without incurring the direct media costs. It also significantly extends the marketing reach while preserving budget for other initiatives, because here you have not spent on media burn. Instead, the PR activity has created noise around your particular brand or offering. You get enhanced credibility because messages are delivered through third party sources which carry greater credibility, in this case some sort of a news conduit. Here, consumers who are increasingly skeptical of traditional advertising claims tend to skew back towards you as a brand, but at the same time it has less control. So the trade-off for free media and increased credibility is reduced control over the message delivery. Who says what, how accurate it is, how the timing of it will be, what will people interpret out of what has been presented, and it will create both an opportunity and risk at the same point in time. When it comes to effective publicity, the key objectives to do so is first, build awareness. So you generate media coverage to introduce new offerings. When you establish credibility, you leverage the editorial context for third party validation. When you generate enthusiasm, you create excitement among sales teams and distribution channels. When you optimize promotion costs, you achieve marketing objectives with lower investment than advertising. And going further, then you have strategic applications of publicity. Here, what you can do is product launches, where publicity plays a crucial role in creating buzz for new product introductions, as seen with successful launches of Leapfrog, Beanie Babies, and Silly Bands, which relied heavily on media coverage rather than paid advertising. It also helps you reposition your brand. The iconic I Love New York campaign demonstrates how publicity can transform negative perceptions and successfully reposition New York City from its troubled 1970s image to a desirable destination later. In terms of crisis management, it also helps during public challenges, and publicity professionals manage communications to protect brand reputation, as seen in Tylenol's handling of product tampering and Toyota's response to safety concerns as well. Here's a case study of Meow Mix publicity, which ran as a campaign. It was a nostalgic jingle revival activity where Meow Mix revitalized its brand by bringing back its iconic meow jingle that had been off the air for over 20 years. The celebrity partnership in this case was singer CeeLo Green and his Persian cat, perfect for a mixed duet version of the jingle. Now, in terms of media coverage, you saw the campaign generate 1200 media placements and 535 million impressions, including exclusive coverage with AP, which is Associated Press, and Access Hollywood. Here, there was a charitable component as well. For each download of the song or ringtone, Meow Mix donated 1 pound of cat food to a local pet charity in Los Angeles. So, public relations can actually go beyond publicity as well. The first part, obviously, though, is media relations, where you put out press coverage and increase the publicity of your brand. It can get into corporate communications as well and convey consistent messaging across channels about the corporate brand. Then you can have stakeholder relationships, where you can build connections with key audiences, but it can also lead to reputation management finally, where you've got strategic oversight of the company image. Now, when you look at key functions of public relations departments, there are legislative relations, where you are engaging with government officials on regulations, corporate communications, where you are coordinating internal and external messaging, and you have got press coverage management, where you are presenting organizational news in a positive light to a slew of reporters. Now, effective public relations media formats include publications in print, where you've got annual reports, brochures, newsletters, magazines, and these reach targeted audiences with controlled messaging that highlights company achievements and values. You've got events, where you use special occasions like news conferences, seminars, trade shows, anniversaries of the organization or so, and you generate attention and create direct engagement opportunities with key stakeholders. You use speeches, and nowadays you also use podcasts, which have become big. Here you use executive presentations at industry events, which build thought out leadership and establish organizational credibility and personally connecting with the important audiences at the same point in time. And alongside, you get identity media, where visual elements like logos, stationery, business cards, uniforms, building design, these all create consistent brand recognition across all touch points and helps the brand create that salience, which is very important. Finally, packaging also provides the opportunity to become an marketing tool and pose as the last mile communication space advocate for the brand. It is the first brand touch point when one finally enters the point of sale. Here, what is looked at when it comes as the final finished product, that by itself will entice many a person to buy or decide not to buy a particular brand. So, packaging here often represents the initial physical interaction between consumers and the products themselves, and it makes it a critical determinant in purchase decisions. We've discussed how there's a lot of psychological response when it comes to people's reactions to packaging as a stimulus. It shapes people's perception, as does price, and packaging influences consumer perceptions of product quality, the value that they will derive if they do end up purchasing it, and appropriateness for their needs. Whether it looks pricey, whether it looks optimum, whether it looks super valued and it looks like a steal at that particular price point. A lot of subliminal cues are also thrown out by packaging, and that helps people arrive at a decision of whether to buy or not buy the product. It also becomes a differentiation driver because distinct packaging helps products stand out in crowded retail environments and creates memorable brand associations which people carry with them further away from that last point of sale. There is a certain role of labels also within the packaging strategy. Here, first and foremost, you identify products, and because you are able to do so, the recognition creates the brand connection at the first optimal level. Next, labels also give information. They communicate the attributes, benefits, usage, all of these things which are necessary pieces of information to the consumer about the brand at large. Then there is instruction, where it provides guidance to use and store and finally dispose of the particular product, because at times, especially in the case of electronics waste is a huge problem in the world today, and a lot of dumping happens because electronics waste is not disposed of properly. Also, a lot of essential metals, etc., can be recycled from electronic waste. So, e-waste is a big business, and let's say if it is not looked into properly, then there are chances that it may impact both sustainability considerations and also the continuing productivity and efficiency of an organization, because if they can reuse what they had already used in the past, it makes more sense for them to extract it. Now, here what typically can happen is, because the e-waste consideration comes in, so brands can create the messaging of how your product will finally get disposed of on the packaging itself. And let's say if you have a phone or if you have a tablet or a computer, how will the various components, accessories within it get finally disposed of when you at least let it go, is something consumers need to know. This also defines the aesthetics while you are going along, because there is a certain visual appeal and emotional connection which you start developing with the brand at large there. Now, there are certain core principles of effective packaging which help the conversation go in the precise direction that the brand wants it to go in and control the messaging and the narrative. So, here you will see that there is a visibility impact, which is the first thing that packaging does for any particular brand. It can go up to by 62%, because this is the percentage of customers who notice distinctive packaging for the first time when shopping in crowded retail environments. Also, do realize that when you are looking at advertising, you are probably seeing the last bottled or packaged version of that particular product. So whether you see that or you see it used in action or whether you see it in an unboxed form, you are generally unable to visualize how it will look in the retail aisle. Now, if there is interesting packaging, then when you encounter the product in a retail aisle, you will suddenly be drawn in because you probably know of the brand. But when you come closer and you interact with the packaging, it may give you a certain sense of discovery and delight. That tends to register positively with the consumer and creates a point of salience. Here, if it is differentiated like we spoke of, it tends to have impact on consumers' retention. So, consumers report making purchase decisions also based on packaging, and that it needs to stand out from competitors. Beyond this, if they are transparent about what they are carrying inside, that transparency, the honesty of it actually helps create 85% likelihood to purchase it, because brands reported increased sales after redesigning packaging to better communicate product benefits. Now, packaging principles in action, where we can look at first and foremost visibility. Now, methods teardrop shaped soap bottle created instant recognition in the crowded cleaning products market, because typically all bottles were blocked and they were vertical and symmetrical in shape. However, the tear shaped bottle helped the brand stand out on shelves at Target, Walmart and Whole Foods. The distinctive pattern, the silhouette which was cut through visual clutter, it helped draw shopper attention and created a memorable brand identifier and communicated the product's gentle design forward positioning. Apart from this, differentiation and transparency also help here. Sustainable product packaging often uses green coloring to instantly communicate environmental connects and the benefits thereof, and it helps conscientious consumers quickly identify earth-friendly options from amongst competition, because they would rather go for that earth-friendly version first. Here, the visual shorthand transparently communicates brand values while differentiating products and creates an immediate connection with target customers who prioritize sustainability in their entire purchasing decision format. Moving further, packaging versus advertising, there are key differences where we look at each aspect. The timing of impact, let's say. Now, this in the case of packaging is immediate, and in the case of advertising is delayed, because it creates the impression of some future purchase, whereas in packaging it is immediate because it is at the point of sale. Decision wise, it has a direct visual impact at the moment of choice, the moment when the penny dropping will happen, and advertising builds awareness and preferences over time. Interaction wise, it gets brief evaluation from packaging, whereas it gets multiple exposures over the entire run of a campaign from advertising. In terms of information depth, the focus on essential product attributes is heightened with packaging, whereas it can tell broader brand stories when it comes to advertising. And how persistent is it? In the case of the packaging aspect, it continues to play on in the consumer's mind and thereafter at the home after the purchase has happened. Whereas in the case of advertising, it is ephemeral and requires repetition, because otherwise there is just way too much media coming at people from all the variety of sources that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. So, which means we are crammed full of information, and our ability to process that information has become very challenged. So, our actual attention span shifts from one particular product to the other, shifts from one brand to the other, shifts from one medium to the other, and typically advertising is more intrusive. It tends to poke you and then tell you about something. It is not very seamlessly built into the experience of any media format. Hence, that irritant which is there, it's like having a little blister. So, that blister tends to irritate you, and that is precisely how advertising also raspily tries to get hold of your attention. Most advertising actually follows that particular principle, and seldom is it that it is woven into the entire content that you are probably enjoying on a particular channel. So, that is why it tends to get ignored. And because it tends to get ignored, the amount of information transferred during advertising campaigns is less. So, over repeated exposures is when people can actually grasp the entire story which was being projected by one particular ad, and so they piece it together literally, and that is how they understand what the brand really wants them to go ahead, understand, and probably end up buying. So, that is critical to understand over here. Now, there are certain key takeaways from this entire exercise where you create impactful marketing moments and you ensure that people are going to talk about it. This is the act which is the response which you are intending out of any amount of experiential marketing. And in this presentation, you will have seen how events and experiences create meaningful connections and consumers become part of those experiences because they personally find these moments relevant and synergistic with their own personal lives. And this is how strategic event sponsorships build brand salience, because they get the audience, they get the context, and they get the opportunity to spend all in one place. And if you're able to extend the experience, it's even better. So, people then reinforce key brand associations and create emotional connections that traditional advertising otherwise cannot achieve. So, word of mouth therefore remains one of marketing's most powerful tools, done better in person, more effective, but then with a limited number of people it can touch base with, whereas if done online, slightly less effective but reaches definitely far more people. Here it is organic or facilitated through viral marketing campaigns, and publicity and public relations help extend the brand reach with enhanced credibility across the variety of news media possibilities. While packaging serves as a critical touch point at the point of sale and influences the purchase decision at that very moment. Here, integrating all these approaches, marketers can create cohesive strategies that resonate with consumers across a variety of multiple touch points. So, here we have talked more about the physicality of product, brand and consumer interactions, and we will step right back into the digital space at the end of this when we go for the last conversation in this series, where we will cover the entire bit of social media ROI. So, until next time, this is me signing off.
Hello, I am A.K. Sharma and I teach sociology in IIT Kanpur. You may ask, how do sociologists view religion? Religion is becoming an important issue for our society. Now, sociologists, this is true that sociologists explain one thing in terms of other things of society. So, religion, if you ask sociologists to explain religion, they will explain religion in terms of other things of society like education, economic development. In sociology of religion, there are two major traditions actually. In one tradition, to use language of methodology, in one tradition religion is a dependent variable, in another tradition religion is an independent variable. What I mean is that in the view of Karl Marx, who said that religion is the opium of the working class, religion is closely associated with contradictions or relations of class in society. Marx believed that as time passes, societies evolve, and this evolution of society is dialectical, like from a classless society to a class society, class formation, and eventually again a classless society will emerge. Karl Marx believed that laws of human behavior or laws of society are specific to a stage of development of society and are closely associated with mode of production or tools and techniques of production and ownership of tools and techniques of production. To Karl Marx, who think that a modern society is a capitalist society, religion is the dependent variable which needs to be explained in terms of class relations. And when he says that religion is the opium of the working class, it means that religion is used by the powerful class, the class which owns the means of production, to legitimize their class position or to confuse the workers. Let the workers think that if they are poor, if they are exploited, and if they suffer from various kinds of problems, it is because of their fate or their deeds in the previous births, and not develop the revolutionary consciousness to analyze the real causes of their poverty or exploitation or ill health. This is one view, and religion is the dependent variable, which also means that tomorrow in socialist society or in communist society, if it ever emerges and society becomes classless once again, religion may not exist. Now, according to another view, Max Weber, religion is actually the independent variable that explains emergence of something else, and that something else is the emergence of capitalism. Max Weber said that unlike in the Hindu countries or the Muslim countries or Christian countries where influence of Catholic Christianity was rampant, capitalism, as we understand by capitalist institutions, capitalism could not have developed. It does not mean that people, Hindus or Muslims or Catholic Christians, they were not acquisitive in nature, but there was a difference between them and those influenced by Protestant ethics in certain countries of Western Europe, and the difference was that these people did not use what they earned from their enterprises for comforts or for saving or for security or for status or prestige, but whatever they earned from their enterprise, they further invested this in the enterprise itself, and they lived simple life. By living simple life and spending the earnings back in the enterprise leads to emergence of capitalism in Western Europe. Here you see that religion is the cause. So, at some point of time, some philosopher, his name was Calvin, who gave a new turn to Christianity and propounded the philosophy of a new philosophy of Protestantism, also called Puritanism, the theory of predestination, which created anxiety in people's mind to know whether they are elect or not, whether after their death they will go to hell or heaven. So, this reinvesting in enterprise and not using the profits for their own gains or for their own comforts, this produce capitalist society or industrialization, in simple language industrialization, or this produce economic development first in the countries of Northwest Europe. And another issue which sociology tackles with regard to religion is whether we are secularizing. Now, it has been found that in the Western countries with urbanization, economic development, industrialization, education, democracy, there is a fall in religiosity. But in our country secularization is defined in a different way, because we are a plural society, and for thousands of years all religions have been juxtaposed in our country. So, we define secularization as a process in which state maintains equal distance from all the religions, but does not become irreligious state. So, but this kind of definition or this approach of state obviously is going to raise new issues, new social problems and religious issues, other issues, but this is what it is. So, sociologists of religion will also study this process of tensions in the process of secularization in a plural country like India. Thank you.